6 hours after a hotel clerk begged me to switch rooms and I refused, police found a body in the room right next to where I was supposed to be staying, and I realized a complete stranger had been trying to save me from a serial killer who was already inside the hotel. I'm Paige Hoffman. I'm 29 years old. I work in pharmaceutical sales, and I've stayed in more hotels than I can count. I know how hotels work. I know the tricks, the scams, the weird requests that front desk staff sometimes make. I thought I'd seen everything. On November 12th, I checked into the Riverside Inn in Columbus, Ohio, and a night manager named Diana Chen tried desperately to get me to switch rooms. She begged me. She physically tried to stop me from going upstairs, and I refused because I thought she was the problem. I was so incredibly wrong. If you want to know how one hotel room assignment and one stubborn decision put me directly in the path of someone who'd already killed that night, make sure you subscribe and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. It was 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday night, and I was running on nothing but bad airport coffee and pure stubbornness. I'd been on the road for 2 straight weeks, hitting every major city in the Midwest for client presentations. Cleveland, Indianapolis, Detroit, Chicago, and now Columbus. My suitcase was a disaster. My blazer had a coffee stain I kept trying to hide. My feet hurt from wearing heels for 12 hours straight. And I still had one more presentation to give tomorrow morning before I could finally go home. I'd just finished a long day of meetings in Cleveland, caught a delayed flight to Columbus, and then drove 2 hours through pouring rain to get to my hotel. It was almost midnight, and my alarm was set for 6 a.m. All I wanted was to collapse into bed and forget this day ever happened. My best friend Ivy had texted me earlier that evening asking how I was holding up. I'd sent back a tired emoji and promised to call her when I had energy. My mom had called too, asking when I'd be home for Thanksgiving next week. I'd promised her I'd make it this year, even though I'd missed the last 2 because of work. That promise was still weighing on me as I pulled into the parking lot of the Riverside Inn. I knew this hotel. I'd stayed here twice before on previous trips to Columbus. It was nothing fancy, just a clean, reliable, mid-range business hotel. The kind of place where the breakfast is free but forgettable, the Wi-Fi works most of the time, and the beds are comfortable enough, perfect for people like me who just need a place to sleep between meetings. I grabbed my rolling suitcase from the trunk and ran through the rain to the lobby doors. My hair was soaked. My blazer was dripping, and I was too tired to care. The lobby was almost empty at this hour, just me and the woman behind the front desk. She was Asian, probably in her early 40s, with shoulder-length black hair and the kind of tired eyes that told me she'd been working the night shift for too long. Her name tag said Diana Chen, night manager. "Welcome to Riverside Inn," she said, and her smile seemed forced, distracted, like her mind was somewhere else entirely. "Hi, checking in. Reservation under Paige Hoffman." Diana typed something on her computer, then stopped. She stared at the screen for a long moment, and I watched something shift in her expression. Concern, maybe, or worry. "You're in room 304, she said slowly. Then she looked up at me. "But actually, I'd like to offer you a complimentary upgrade. We have a room available on the 4th floor, room 412. Better view, quieter location. No extra charge." I was way too tired to care about views or quiet locations. "3rd floor is fine. I've stayed here before. I just need a bed." Diana's expression tightened. "I really think you'd prefer 412. It's away from the elevator so you won't hear the noise." There was something weird about how insistent she was being. Hotel staff offer upgrades all the time, sure, but they don't push when you say no thanks. "Room 304 is completely fine," I said, a little more firmly. "Can I just get my key card, please? I have an early morning tomorrow." Diana didn't move. She just kept staring at me with this look I couldn't quite read. Then she leaned forward slightly over the desk and lowered her voice. "Ms. Hoffman, I need you to take room 412 instead of 304. I can't explain why right now, but it's very important. Please just trust me on this." Now I was getting annoyed. Trust her? I didn't even know her, and this whole conversation was starting to feel off. "Is there a problem with room 304? Is it not ready or something?" "The room is ready," Diana said carefully, "but I'm asking you as a personal favor to take 412 instead." a personal favor? From a stranger working the night shift at a hotel? That made no sense. My guard went up immediately. I'd heard stories about hotel scams. Staff who put solo female travelers in specific rooms and then their accomplices rob them. Or desk clerks who give out room numbers to people who shouldn't have them. This felt wrong. Look, I appreciate the offer, but I'm staying in the room I booked, I said firmly. Can you please just give me the key for 304? Diana's face fell. She looked genuinely upset now, almost desperate. Ms. Hoffman, please. I know this sounds strange, but you need to be in 412. You don't have to understand why. Just please trust me. Trust her? She was practically begging me to switch rooms for reasons she refused to explain. Everything about the situation screamed red flags. I need to speak to your manager, I said, pulling out my phone. I am the manager, Diana said, and there was something close to panic in her voice now. I'm the night manager, and I'm telling you that you should be in room 412, not 304. Please. I'd had enough. I was exhausted, soaking wet, and this bizarre conversation was the last thing I needed. Print me the key for 304 right now, or I'm calling your corporate office and filing a complaint. This is completely unprofessional. Diana looked like I'd physically hurt her. Her hands shook slightly as she printed the key card and slid it across the desk. But when I reached for it, she did something that shocked me. She grabbed my wrist. I yanked my hand back so fast I almost dropped my phone. What are you doing? Don't touch me. My voice came out louder than I intended, echoing through the empty lobby. Diana immediately held both hands up in surrender, her face pale and stricken. I'm so sorry, I shouldn't have grabbed you. But please, please listen to me. Don't go to room 304 tonight. Take 412 instead. I'll walk you up there myself. I'll carry your luggage. I'll do whatever you need. Just please don't go to 304. I stared at her like she'd lost her mind. This wasn't just unprofessional anymore. This was unhinged. A hotel manager physically grabbing guests and begging them to switch rooms while refusing to give any actual reason? No way. I snatched the keycard from the desk and grabbed the handle of my suitcase. Stay away from me. If you follow me or approach me again, I'm calling the police. I could see other guests starting to notice the commotion. An older couple had stopped near the elevator, watching us with concerned expressions. A businessman crossing the lobby had paused with his coffee, clearly trying to figure out what was happening. I felt my face burning with embarrassment and anger as I turned toward the elevator. Behind me, I heard Diana's voice, quiet and broken. I tried. I'm so sorry. I tried. The words sent a chill down my spine, but I didn't turn around. I jabbed the elevator button repeatedly, wanting nothing more than to get away from this bizarre situation and lock myself in my room. The elevator arrived and I stepped inside, hitting the button for the 3rd floor. As the doors started to close, I looked up and saw Diana still standing behind the desk, watching me with this expression of absolute horror, like she was watching someone walk off a cliff. The doors closed, and I was alone in the elevator, my heart pounding with adrenaline. What the hell was that? I'd stayed in hundreds of hotels over the past 3 years and never experienced anything remotely like it. Was Diana having some kind of mental breakdown? Was this an elaborate scam I didn't understand? Or was there actually something wrong with room 304 that she couldn't legally tell me about? The elevator dinged and opened onto the 3rd floor. The hallway stretched out in front of me, identical to every other hotel hallway I'd ever seen. Patterned carpet in burgundy and gold, cream-colored walls, numbered doors every few feet, harsh fluorescent lighting overhead that made everything look slightly washed out. Room 304 was halfway down the hall on the right side. I found it easily, slid the keycard into the lock, and watched the light turn green. The door swung open to reveal a completely standard hotel room, queen bed with a floral comforter, desk with a lamp and a binder of hotel information, TV mounted on the wall across from the bed, small bathroom visible through an open door to the left, generic landscape painting above the bed. Everything looked perfectly normal, perfectly safe, perfectly fine. I wheeled my suitcase inside and immediately locked the door behind me, engaging both the deadbolt and the security chain. I stood there for a moment with my back against the door, trying to calm my racing heart and make sense of what had just happened. Maybe Diana really was having some kind of crisis. Maybe she'd confused my room with another room that actually did have a problem. Or maybe this was all some weird test or prank that I didn't understand. I pulled out my phone and called Ivy. She answered on the second ring, her voice warm and sleepy. "Hey, how's Columbus?" I launched into the whole story, describing Diana's strange behavior, her desperate pleading, the physical grab, all of it. Ivy was quiet for a long moment after I finished. "Paige, that's really bizarre. Like, really bizarre. Do you feel safe? Do you want to just leave and go to a different hotel?" I looked around the room again. Everything still looked completely normal. The door was locked. The room was clean and ordinary. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe my exhaustion was making everything seem more dramatic than it actually was. "I think I'm just tired and paranoid," I said, trying to convince myself as much as Ivy. "The room is fine. I'm fine. That clerk was probably just having a bad night or something." Ivy didn't sound convinced. "If you're sure, but keep your phone on, okay? And text me when you wake up tomorrow. I'm serious." We said goodnight and I tossed my phone on the bed. I needed to shower, review my presentation notes, and get some sleep. Tomorrow, I would report Diana's behavior to the hotel corporate office, and then forget this whole weird encounter. I was unpacking my toiletries in the bathroom when I heard it. A sound from somewhere nearby. It sounded like furniture being dragged across a floor. Heavy, slow, deliberate. It was coming from one of the rooms next to mine, either 302 or 306. I froze, listening. The sound stopped. Then silence. Hotels have thin walls, I reminded myself. People rearrange furniture. It happens. It's nothing. But I couldn't shake the image of Diana's face as those elevator doors closed. The genuine terror in her eyes. The way she'd said, "I tried," like she'd already failed at something important. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the wall that separated my room from whoever was next door, and I couldn't quite make myself believe that everything was fine. I tried to push the uneasy feeling away and focus on getting ready for bed. I took a quick shower, changed into my pajamas, and climbed under the covers with my laptop to review tomorrow's presentation one more time. But I couldn't concentrate. Every small noise made me tense up. The air conditioning kicking on, someone walking past my door in the hallway, the ice machine down the hall dropping ice. My eyes kept drifting to the wall that connected my room to the neighboring one, and I kept replaying that dragging sound in my mind. At 1:23 a.m., I heard it again, that same heavy dragging noise, but this time it was slower and more deliberate, like someone was pulling something extremely heavy across the floor with great effort. The sound made my skin crawl. I set my laptop aside and sat completely still, listening. Then the dragging stopped and I heard a door open. Not my door, but somewhere close. I heard footsteps in the hallway, slow and measured. My entire body went rigid. The footsteps stopped, and from the sound of it, they'd stopped right outside my door. I held my breath, not daring to move. For 30 long seconds, there was nothing but silence. Then I saw it, the thing that made my blood turn to ice. The door handle was moving. Someone was trying to open my door. The handle moved down slowly, testing it, and then jiggled more forcefully. The door didn't open because of the deadbolt and security chain, but someone was definitely, absolutely trying to get into my room. My heart was slamming against my ribs so hard I thought it might burst. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, just stared at that door handle moving up and down as someone on the other side tried again and again to open it. Then, after what felt like an eternity, the footsteps moved away. I heard a door close somewhere down the hall. Silence returned, but it felt different now, threatening, heavy. My hands were shaking so violently I could barely hold my phone as I pulled up the front desk number and hit call. It rang 6 times, each ring feeling like forever, before Diana finally answered. "Front desk, this is Diana." Her voice sounded tense, alert. "This is Paige Hoffman in room 304. I tried to keep my voice steady, but it came out shaking. "Someone just tried to open my door. Right now, someone tried my door handle." I heard Diana suck in a sharp breath. "Are you okay? Are you hurt?" Did they get inside? No. The deadbolt stopped them. But Diana, someone tried to get in. Who has keys to these rooms? There was a pause, and when Diana spoke again, her voice was tight with barely controlled fear. Only housekeeping and management staff have master keys, and housekeeping doesn't work at this hour. Ms. Hoffman, I need you to listen to me very carefully right now. Pack your things immediately and come down to the lobby. Right now. Don't open your door until you're completely ready to leave, and then walk straight to the elevator without stopping. Do you understand? The fear in her voice made my decision easy. This wasn't a strange clerk having a bad night. This was real danger, and Diana had been trying to warn me from the moment I checked in. I'm packing now. I'm coming down. I threw my belongings into my suitcase without bothering to fold anything, just stuffed it all in as fast as I could. My presentation notes, my toiletries, my clothes from today, everything just thrown in. I put my shoes on with fumbling fingers, grabbed my purse, and stood by the door trying to steady my breathing. I pressed my ear against the door and listened. The hallway sounded quiet, normal, but normal didn't mean safe anymore. I unlocked the deadbolt and security chain as quietly as I could, then peered through the smallest crack in the door. The hallway was empty. Same patterned carpet, same cream walls, same harsh lighting. No people, no movement. I pulled my suitcase out and walked as quickly as I could toward the elevator, my wheels making too much noise on the carpet, my heart in my throat. I kept expecting a door to open behind me, kept expecting to hear those footsteps again. I jabbed the elevator button over and over until finally the doors opened. I practically fell inside and hit the button for the lobby, watching the third-floor hallway until the doors finally, mercifully closed. When the elevator opened in the lobby, Diana was standing right there waiting for me. Her face was pale and drawn, and she looked like she might cry when she saw me. "Thank God," she breathed. "Thank God you're okay. Come with me right now." She practically ran back to the front desk and started printing a new keycard with shaking hands. "What is going on?" I demanded, my voice louder than I intended. "Diana, you need to tell me what's happening right now." She handed me a keycard for room 412. "I can't explain everything yet, but I need to make a phone call. This room is on the 4th floor at the end of the hall. It's safe, I promise you. Go there now, lock the door, and don't open it for anyone until I call you or until morning. Please, Paige. Just trust me one more time." Something in her face, the raw fear mixed with determination, made me nod. She'd been right about room 304. She'd been trying to protect me all along. "Okay, but you call me and explain everything." I took the elevator to the 4th floor. Room 412 was exactly where she said, at the far end of the hall away from the elevator. I let myself in and locked every single lock on the door, then pushed the desk chair against it for good measure. The room looked identical to 304, but somehow being here felt different, safer. I sat on the bed fully dressed with my phone clutched in my hand, waiting. At 2:47 a.m., my phone rang. Diana's name on the screen. "Ms. Hoffman, the police are here at the hotel. I need you to stay in your room with the door locked. Don't open it for anyone except police officers who properly identify themselves. Do you understand me?" My mouth went dry. "Police? Diana, what's happening? What did you find?" There was a long, heavy pause. When she spoke again, her voice was shaking. "They found someone in room 306, the room right next to where you were staying. I tried to tell you earlier. I tried so hard to make you move. I'm so sorry I couldn't explain more." The line went dead, and I sat there in the silence of room 412, finally understanding that Diana Chen had saved my life tonight. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. I sat on that bed in room 412 with every light on, staring at the door, jumping at every distant sound. My mind kept going back to that door handle moving, to those footsteps outside my room, to the fact that someone had been right next door the entire time. At 4:15 a.m., there was a firm knock on my door. A woman's voice called out clearly, "Ms. Hoffman, this is Detective Laura Brennan with Columbus Police Department. I need to speak with you. I'm going to hold my badge up to the peephole." I crept to the door and looked through the peephole. A woman in her 50s with short gray hair stood there in plain clothes, holding up a police badge and ID. Behind her, was a uniformed officer. My hands shook as I unlocked the door and let them in. Detective Brennan's expression was kind but serious as she gestured to the small seating area by the window. "May we sit down? I have some questions about your check-in tonight and your interactions with Diana Chen, the night manager." I sat in the desk chair while the detective settled on the edge of the bed, her notepad open. The uniformed officer stood by the door. I told them everything from the beginning. Diana's strange insistence on switching rooms, her desperate pleading, the way she'd grabbed my wrist, my refusal to listen, the sound of furniture dragging, the door handle moving, the terrifying moment when I realized someone was trying to get into my room. Detective Brennan listened carefully, taking notes, nodding at certain points in my story. When I finished, she looked me directly in the eyes. "Ms. Hoffman, Diana Chen saved your life tonight. I want you to understand that before I tell you anything else." My throat felt tight. "What do you mean?" The detective took a slow breath before continuing. "At approximately 2:30 this morning, we received a call from Ms. Chen reporting suspicious activity in room 306, which was directly next to your original room assignment. When our officers arrived and entered that room, they found a deceased female. Her name was Jessica Morales, 31 years old. She checked into the hotel yesterday afternoon. The preliminary investigation suggests she was killed earlier tonight by someone who accessed her room using a cloned key card. I felt the room start to spin. Someone had been murdered in the room right next to mine, right next to where I was supposed to be sleeping. We also discovered evidence that the perpetrator had created cloned key cards for several rooms on the third floor, including room 304, your assigned room. Ms. Chen had noticed unusual activity on that floor over the past several nights. Doors opening at odd hours. Guests reporting feeling watched. Small items missing from rooms. She'd been monitoring the security footage and flagging certain rooms as potentially compromised. Detective Brennan pulled out a tablet and showed me grainy black and white security footage. A figure in a maintenance uniform moving through the third floor hallway, stopping at certain doors, using what looked like a key card programmer. The timestamp showed this footage was from 3 nights ago. When you checked in last night and were assigned to room 304, Ms. Chen recognized it as one of the compromised rooms. She tried to move you to the 4th floor where the key cards hadn't been cloned, but you refused. The full weight of it hit me like a truck. So someone had a key to my room. They could have just walked in anytime they wanted. If you hadn't engaged the deadbolt and security chain, yes, they could have entered freely. Based on our timeline, we believe the perpetrator was in room 306 with Ms. Morales when you first arrived on the 3rd floor. When you called the front desk about someone trying your door handle, Ms. Chen immediately contacted us. She'd been gathering evidence for several days, trying to figure out how to alert police without spooking the suspect into fleeing. An hour later, after more questions and a formal written statement, Diana came upstairs with a police escort. She looked absolutely exhausted, her eyes red from crying, but there was also relief on her face when she saw me. The officers gave us privacy, waiting outside in the hallway. Diana sat in the chair across from me, and for a moment, neither of us spoke. "I'm sorry I couldn't tell you more at check-in," she finally said, her voice hoarse. "I'd been watching the security cameras for 3 nights straight. I saw someone accessing rooms they shouldn't be accessing, going in when guests were out, staying for a few minutes, then leaving. I reported it to my boss, but they said I was overreacting, that it was probably housekeeping doing extra cleaning rounds." She wiped at her eyes, but I knew it wasn't housekeeping. Housekeeping doesn't work at midnight. And yesterday I saw something that terrified me. I saw someone in a maintenance uniform, someone I'd never seen on our staff before, programming key cards in the back service area. I started tracking which rooms those cards were coded for, and 304 was one of them. I leaned forward. "Then why didn't you just tell me that? Why the weird insistence without explaining?" Diana's voice cracked. "Because I didn't know who to trust. What if you were somehow involved? What if you called someone and warned them? And honestly, I didn't think you'd believe me. It sounds completely insane. Welcome to our hotel, by the way. Someone might break into your room tonight. You would have left and gone to another hotel. And then I'd have no one to protect while I waited for enough evidence to call police. At least if I got you to a safe floor, I could watch over you. She covered her face with her hands. When you refused to switch rooms, I panicked. I tried to physically stop you because I knew there was active danger on that floor. And when you called about someone trying your door, I knew he was there right then. I called 911 immediately and told them to send units. Then I started checking every room on the third floor through our camera system. That's when I saw movement in 306 and told police to check that room first. Detective Brennan came back in to tell us they'd arrested someone. Richard Cole, 42 years old, former hotel management employee who'd been fired 6 months ago. He'd been targeting hotels across the Midwest, using his inside knowledge to clone key cards and access guest rooms. Usually he just stole valuables while people were out. But in Columbus, something had gone terribly wrong. Jessica Morales returned to her room unexpectedly and found him inside going through her belongings. We believe he panicked and killed her to avoid being identified. The detective's voice was gentle but firm. "And Ms. Hoffman, you were next. Room 304 was right next door, with a cloned key giving him access whenever he wanted. If you'd been in that room sleeping without the deadbolt engaged, or if you'd opened the door when he tried the handle, we'd likely be having a very different conversation right now." I didn't make my 8 a.m. presentation the next morning. I spent hours at the police station giving detailed statements, looking at more security footage, identifying the exact timeline of everything that had happened. My hands shook as I signed each page of my statement, my mind still struggling to process that I'd been that close to someone who'd already killed once that night. My company was incredibly understanding when I finally called my boss around noon to explain why I'd missed the client meeting. They rescheduled everything for the following week and told me to take whatever time I needed. I couldn't stay at the Riverside Inn after that, even though the manager offered me a complimentary extended stay and profuse apologies. I checked into a different hotel across town, one with modern security systems and cameras everywhere. But even there, in a completely different building, I couldn't sleep. Every footstep in the hallway made me freeze. Every door closing made my heart race. I kept seeing that door handle moving, kept hearing those deliberate footsteps stopping outside room 304. My best friend Ivy flew out from Chicago the next day without even asking if I wanted her to come. She just showed up at my hotel room with her overnight bag and wrapped me in a hug that finally broke through the shock I'd been operating under. I cried for an hour straight while she held me, all the fear and terror and guilt pouring out at once. Guilt because I was alive, and Jessica Morales wasn't. Guilt because I'd fought against the very person trying to save me. Guilt because some part of me wondered if Diana could have saved Jessica too, if she'd acted sooner, if she'd called police earlier, if she'd done something different. Over the next few weeks, the full scope of what Richard Cole had done became clear. Police found evidence that he'd accessed over 40 hotel rooms across 5 states in the past 6 months. He'd stolen laptops, jewelry, cash, prescription medications, anything valuable he could quickly take and sell. His hotel management background had given him the knowledge to exploit security systems that most guests never even thought about. Jessica Morales had been his first murder victim, but prosecutors argued that his pattern showed escalating risk-taking and violence. It was only a matter of time before someone else got hurt. He'd kept detailed logs of which rooms he'd accessed, which guests had the most valuable items, which hotels had the weakest security protocols. The DA told me during one of my meetings with her office that finding those logs had been crucial to building their case. Richard Cole eventually pleaded guilty to second-degree murder, multiple counts of breaking and entering, theft, and identity fraud. He was sentenced to 35 years in prison. I attended the sentencing hearing, sitting in the back of the courtroom, and that's where I met Jessica's family. Her parents, Maria and Robert, and her younger brother Danny. They were devastated, broken by a loss that made no sense. Jessica had been a graphic designer, engaged to be married in just 3 months. She'd been in Columbus for a work conference, excited about her upcoming wedding, making plans for her future. She had no idea that checking into that hotel would be the last thing she ever did. After the sentencing, Jessica's mother, Maria, came up to me in the courthouse hallway. She took both my hands in hers, and I saw such deep pain in her eyes that I could barely look at her. "I'm glad you're safe," she said quietly. "I'm glad that woman Diana was there to protect you. I just wish someone had been there to protect my Jessica." Those words have stayed with me every single day since. The randomness of survival and death, the fact that I was spared because one hotel clerk noticed something wrong and refused to give up on me, even when I fought against her. Jessica didn't have that same protection, and it cost her everything. I quit my pharmaceutical sales job 3 months after Columbus. I couldn't do it anymore. The constant travel, the endless string of hotel rooms, the nights spent alone in unfamiliar places. Every hotel lobby made me think of Diana standing behind that desk, desperately trying to save me. Every hotel room door made me think of that handle moving, someone trying to get in. I took a position at my company's corporate headquarters in Atlanta, a regular desk job with normal hours and a permanent address. It paid significantly less than my sales commissions, but I slept in my own bed every night, and that was worth more than any amount of money. Diana and I stay in close contact. She left the Riverside Inn shortly after that night and now works as a security consultant, training hotel staff across the country to recognize suspicious patterns and trust their instincts when something feels wrong. We meet for coffee every few months, 2 women forever connected by one terrible night. "I still think about what would have happened if you'd just given up on me," I told her during one of those meetings, sitting across from her in a quiet cafe. "If you'd decided it wasn't worth fighting with a stubborn guest who wouldn't listen." Diana stirred her coffee slowly, her eyes distant. "I couldn't give up. I have 2 daughters, and I kept thinking about what if it was one of them. What if someone tried to warn them and they didn't listen because the warning didn't make sense or seemed inconvenient? I'd want that person to keep trying, to not give up just because it was difficult. So I couldn't give up on you." I learned something crucial that night in Columbus. Sometimes the people trying to help you look like obstacles or problems. Sometimes they can't explain exactly why they're asking you to trust them because the full truth is too complicated or too dangerous to share in that moment. Sometimes survival depends on recognizing genuine fear in someone's eyes and choosing to believe them even when logic says otherwise. I think about Jessica constantly, about how we were both just women traveling for work, staying in the same hotel, living our normal lives. The only difference between us was timing and a hotel clerk who happened to be paying attention. Jessica deserved that same chance. She deserved someone watching out for her too. I carry that responsibility now, that knowledge that I'm alive because someone cared enough to fight for me. It's changed how I move through the world. I pay attention to people in service positions who see patterns guests don't see. I listen when someone says, "Trust me," with real urgency in their voice. I know now that independence and self-reliance are valuable, but so is recognizing when someone is desperately trying to save you. 6 hours was all it took. 6 hours between Diana trying to switch my room and police finding Jessica's body next door. 6 hours where I was supposed to be in room 304, right next to a killer, with a door he could open whenever he wanted. 6 hours where Diana was gathering evidence, watching security feeds, trying to protect us both without alerting the person she was tracking. Sometimes trust has to be given immediately, desperately, to someone you don't know who's begging you to believe them. And sometimes that blind trust is the only thing standing between you and someone who's already decided you're their next victim. That night taught me that the most dangerous thing isn't always the obvious threat. Sometimes it's your own stubborn refusal to accept help from someone who sees clearly what you can't see at all. If this story affected you, please subscribe for more real stories about recognizing danger, trusting your instincts, and the fine line between independence and stubbornness that can mean life or death. And drop a comment telling me where you're watching from because I love connecting with all of you. And the next time someone tries to warn you with genuine fear in their eyes, please listen. It might save your life.